We adopted two girls from Liberia. They told us at the time that they were going to be aged 5 and 6. We found out after we were back in the States that at least one of them was off by 4 or 5 years, which we were able to determine medically, and we had her birth certificate changed. We discovered fairly quickly that we had some pretty serious behavioral issues with both of them, which I think were largely due to their years in the orphanage during the Liberian Civil War, where they became accustomed to some pretty extreme violence. And to adapt to our culture and learn to fit in by our social norms was an extremely difficult challenge. They both wanted to. They both needed a great deal of help. In the case of the older girl, we tried to make an intervention, chose an organization, and unfortunately it really didn't work. She's now emancipated and we still see her, but when we saw these same patterns developing in our younger daughter, we decided that, again, we needed an intervention, but we knew we had to pick a different organization, and we didn't know how to find one. When we heard of Icahn Burroughs, we came looking for advice on where we could find help. We knew a little bit already because of our experiences, but we knew that we didn't know enough. And that's where we really had to reach out to someone who had a broader view of what was available. Our daughter has been in placement for almost a year. The first 4 months of that were in a wilderness program, and then the next, I guess it's been about 5 or 6 months now in a therapeutic boarding school. And you asked me what's the most remarkable change that I've seen, and my answer is a little bit counterintuitive, because the most remarkable change I've seen really isn't that remarkable. What happens now in the therapeutic boarding school, there is still an environment of pure conflict. The term they use is the milieu, because it does get a little bit crazy at times. And it can be, well, it is stressful, and it can even become quite confrontational at times. And the most remarkable thing I've noticed in our daughter is she has developed the ability to walk away from a conflict. And it's very unremarkable to an observer, because to watch that happen, there will be this conflict between 2 or 3 peers, and she will just turn and walk away from it. And it's very unremarkable. But to me, it's amazing. When she was in the wilderness program, they had a strategy, which at first I didn't really appreciate, but their requirements were that all communications had to be by mail. Looking back on it, I can see tremendous advantages in that, although going into it, I was really upset. I wanted to be able to talk to her over the phone. I wanted to be able to come down and visit her. I wanted to be able to, communicate more openly, and they had their reasons, which I disagreed with at the time. But again, now when I understand, what she was going through, I really think having the written communication was very valuable. And in fact, we go back and reference a lot of those letters now in dealing with, current issues. Well, because of the distance, we can really only visit once a month. We talk to her twice a week, once a week on the phone and once a week on Skype. And the therapy sessions are on Skype, and that in itself is amazing. Although there are limitations as to the quality of the technology, it's virtually like you're in the room with the therapist and with your daughter. And it works very, very well. Better than doing the same exercise over the phone, I'm convinced.